everyone, and thanks for joining us for our tutorial portion of the buckle card. So to start off with, I normally, when you've seen in some of my other projects, I typically use, as cardstock, I typically use white matte presentation paper, which is the same stuff that I print all the pattern papers off on and everything else. This time, however, I wanted to use true cardstock. I wanted a green backing in order to back all my elements. I thought it looked really good on the card. And in order to do so, I've gone to the Christmas Wishes Solids pack, and this is the dark green. So when I've printed it off, as you can see, first off, I get perfect color match for cardstock. Second, it has a nice damask pattern in it. And third, I have printed it off double-sided, so I printed on both sides, okay? Obviously, when you use cardstock, and when we fold this, we're gonna cut out our portion, we're gonna fold it over. Well, I need both sides to have that cardstock on it. So in utilizing one piece of paper, I'm printing on both sides, which you can easily do in your printer. And the reason that I'm showing you this blank piece of paper is because I wanted to show you, first off, that I did not use the borderless feature on my printer because I wanted you to know that any printer will do this. And number two, when I printed on this page, I simply, once it finished printing, I fed it back into my paper tray in the appropriate way, so that I made sure that when it printed again, that it printed on this back side. So there is that. I'm gonna go cut our cardstock to size so that I can come back and show you dimensions, cut off all these white borders and cut it to size, and I'll be back in a second. Okay, so here is our cardstock all cut up. So as I mentioned to you, you're gonna have some leftover cardstock, and this is double-sided, and you'll see why in just 1 second. But to get this piece of starting cardstock, this piece is 8.5 inches wide, and it is 4.25 inches tall. So that's what we start with, okay? So make sure that when you're cutting that paper, you cut off the white borders first that the paper didn't print on, and then off you go with this. And we are going to take and score this at 3 1/8 inch, right? So that we use our scoring tool. You guys know how to score. Away we go. Okay. And that is going to give us our card front piece in order to fold over. Okay. So when we do this, obviously you saw from the front, this is a buckle card. And so there's going to be a piece that's cut out in here. Well, before we go ahead and cut this out, we're going to want to put our piece on the front here first. So that way we're going to cut through all the pieces to make the buckle here. We're not going to have to recut again once we put on our front card piece. So our front card piece that I've used, again, this is from our Christmas Wishes pack. And this piece is 2 7/8 inch wide by 4 inches tall. So, okay, so there it is all glued up. You didn't want to see me glue that on anyhow. So that's what it looks like with our front piece pasted on. Now, in order to find your buckle, you are going to measure, first off, this is 3 1/8 inch wide, the entire piece, including the cardstock, okay? All these measurements are going to be including the cardstock. So this is 3 1/8 wide, but to make math easy, let's just pick 1.5 inches, okay? So we measure 1.5 inches. So we find a center point on this card. And then we are going to measure 5/8 of an inch down from the top and 5/8 of an inch up from the bottom, okay? This is going to mark our cut piece for our buckle. And when you mark this, you are basically going to want to have a piece that is about a total of 1/4 inch wide, okay, is going to be your slit. That's how wide you're going to want to cut it. And all that I'm doing is I'm simply taking an X-Acto knife and using those marks, going to cut out in between those marks of 5/8 of an inch. And I'm going to just simply cut out that 1/4 inch piece in there. So let's do that, and I'll be back in a sec. And so there it is. As you can see, I'll just hold it up a little bit there so you can see there is the cutout piece for us that is going to make our buckle. So now let's go ahead and do the inside. So this inside pattern paper, this is a beautiful paper from the FQB Christmas Wishes. And this is the green version of it. There's also a red one if you wanted it. And this piece of paper measures 5¼ wide by 3 7/8 tall. So again, you choose the pattern, the papers that you want out of the kit or whatever the case would be. But if you wanted this one, it's pretty obvious to see when you're actually in the kit. That's not going to be hard in order to find that exact paper and print that exact paper out. So there it is there. Okay. So now we need to form the buckle. And in order to do so, we need a couple things. And to start out, we do need another piece of cardstock. And this piece of cardstock is 2 7/8 tall by 3 3/4 wide. Okay? And what's going to go on there is this piece of beautiful white snowflake paper. It was the one that I liked the best in order to fold in there. And this piece of paper is 2 5/8 inch high and 7 inches wide. Obviously, we measure right to the middle at 3½ inches. We score it and fold it because this is going to form our buckle. So let's just move this guy out of the way for a second. Let's just quickly put him on there. And before we glue this buckle piece in, I'm going to show you another little something that I wanted to add to this particular project. When you glue this on, here's the other tip, is normally cards fold the other way. Usually the folded part is on your left-hand side. Obviously, we want to make sure it's on the right-hand side here because that's the way the buckle is going to operate. The second thing I wanted to show you is inside. Let's just move this card back down. Obviously, when this gets pasted in and the buckle is folded over, you can kind of see how this is all going to work together here. Okay. When you open this up and open the card up, this flap is going to open up. And if you hadn't to put your measurements in there, you could actually use that to write your sentiment in if you wanted. But I wanted to use a real sentiment card. I always think that the inside of your card should look just as good as the outside. And so this is a journal card actually from the kit. So for those of you making cards and thinking, okay, journal cards are more specifically for doing mini albums or photo albums, that's not true at all. This one I have sized down to 3 1/4 wide by 2½ tall. And this, as you can see, already has the lines on it in order for you to write. So that way, if you're like me and you need a little help with your printing and keeping things straight, and this goes inside here, and you're going to see when I show you the finished card, if you don't remember it from seeing the finished card at the beginning, there's a butterfly that I put up on foam dots in here. It makes a beautiful inside and a great place in order to write your sentiment. Now, you also have this outer part too, if that's what you wanted, and you wanted to have more of a sentiment. You wanted just this to be adorned, and you wanted to choose other elements or whatever the case may be. You've got all kinds of options in here, but basically, my whole point of that is, let's not forget about the inside. The inside is every bit as important as the outside, if not more, because that's the part that when somebody opens it, that's what really means something to them. Okay, so that's all put together. So now when we paste this buckle on, all that we're doing is, when we paste it on, is we want to center it on this portion of the card, okay? Like, think about the fold, okay, as being the edge. So on this portion of the card, we want to make sure that it's centered on there. That's all we're doing when we glue it down. We don't need to take any measurements. We don't need to do anything fancy with it or anything like that. Just make sure that it's centered. So before we put it down, that looks about centered to me. And there we go. Okay. So let's seal that down. Okay. And as you can see, that when we open this up, and that's how our buckle is going to fold in there. That's pretty obvious, right? And all that happens after this is we embellish. And luckily for you, that part has already been pre-done. So here it is, folks. This is the finished card. So as you can see, I have then further embellished the outside of the buckle here with a cluster, number 1. Then I have taken and printed out the reindeer and the peace and love tag Put those both up on foam dots to give it some dimension. And once again, like I said, when you open it up, there is that great sentiment. And there is the butterfly up on the foam dots. Again, it gives it dimension, it gives it character, it gives it everything. So folks, that is our buckle card. And I really hope that you're gonna do this for this Christmas. This is a fantastic card. As you can see, it is very simple to do, doesn't use a lot of paper and ink, but it has magnificent results. Before you dash off to get this kit and start making this card yourself, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you're made aware of anytime new videos come up. And as well, give us a thumbs up as a like, give us a comment if you have something you'd like to share with us. And as well, if you do make one of these, please feel free to join our Nitwit Collections Neighborhood Facebook group. It is only there to share and inspire and learn. That is all that it is. And it's a great place to visit. We all need some inspiration from time to time, and it's great to learn a new feature, so be sure to join in. Thanks once again, and I hope you like creating this buckle card for this year's Christmas.